The galaxy watched. Billions of beings across thousands of worlds tuned into the live broadcast. Some watched with cruel amusement, others with silent unease. And then there were those who watched in horror, their hands clenched into fists, their bodies frozen as they saw the fate of the humans. In the center of the Galactic Council's grand arena, 10,000 humans stood in chains. Men, women, even children, prisoners of war, political dissenters, and innocent civilians alike. They were lined up, their faces bruised, their bodies weak from starvation. The Council's High Chancellor, a towering reptilian creature with golden scales, stepped forward. His voice echoed through the arena, amplified by massive speakers. "Humans are a threat to galactic order," he declared. "They are violent. They are reckless. They refuse to submit to the authority of the Council." The audience, filled with alien dignitaries, murmured in agreement. Some clapped. Others simply waited for the inevitable. The Chancellor raised a clawed hand, and the executioners stepped forward. Tall, armored enforcers, their helmets reflecting the bright arena lights, raised their weapons. Each prisoner had a blaster rifle pointed at their head. A signal was given. And then, the gunfire began. One by one, the humans fell. Their bodies dropped onto the cold metallic floor, their blood staining the pristine stage of the Galactic Council. The screams of the dying echoed through the arena, but no one moved to stop it. It was over in minutes. The camera drones zoomed in on the fallen bodies, capturing every moment for the galaxy to see. This was meant to be a lesson, a warning. Humanity was weak. Humanity was defeated. Or so the Council believed. Across the stars, Earth watched. The transmission had reached every human colony, every outpost, every ship. People gathered around screens, their faces pale with disbelief. Mothers clutched their children. Soldiers stood frozen, their hands tightening into fists. Leaders in hidden underground bunkers stared in silence, their expressions unreadable. Then the feed ended. The Galactic Council had made their statement. They expected fear, surrender, obedience. But Earth did not respond. No message was sent. No declaration of war was made. For the first time in history, humanity was completely, utterly silent. And that silence was terrifying. The Galactic Council believed they had won. Days passed. Then weeks. No retaliation came. Humanity did not protest. There were no cries for diplomacy. The Chancellor and his advisors celebrated in their grand halls, drinking the finest wines, basking in their supposed victory. But far from the Council's reach, deep in the dark corners of space, something was happening. Human warships vanished from known space. Their fleets went dark. Their communication channels shut down. Entire military divisions disappeared without a trace. To the rest of the galaxy, it seemed like humanity had given up, that they had finally accepted their place. But in reality, Earth was preparing. In the shadows, the hunt had already begun. The Galactic Council remained confident. Their power was absolute. Their laws were unchallenged. They had erased 10,000 human lives on a live broadcast, and nothing had happened. Humanity had gone silent. No demands, no threats, nothing. To the Council, this was proof that humans had been broken. The High Chancellor, along with his advisors, celebrated their victory. In their eyes, Earth had learned its lesson. But deep in the void of space, far beyond the Council's reach, humanity was not broken. Human warships had not gone missing. They had gone dark. Earth had not surrendered. It had begun its hunt. One by one, Council supply ships disappeared. Entire convoys were wiped from existence. At first, it seemed like accidents, asteroid collisions, navigation failures. But soon, it became clear someone was attacking them. Council commanders tried to track the culprits, but there was no debris, no distress signals, no traces of the attackers. Then, the first real message came. A Council general was found dead in his private estate on a core world. His security was untouched, his guards still standing at their posts. Yet he had been executed in his own home, a single bullet to the head. On the wall, written in his own blood, were just 2 words: "Humanity remembers." Panic began to spread through the council. More leaders started disappearing. Assassinations, sabotage, attacks that no one saw coming. The council tried to increase security, but it made no difference. Their most powerful warships were sabotaged before they could even leave orbit. Defense stations were destroyed without a single alarm being triggered. For the first time in centuries, the rulers of the galaxy were afraid. They had expected Earth to beg for mercy. Instead, humanity was delivering justice. The fear spread like wildfire. The Galactic Council, once arrogant and untouchable, now held emergency meetings in secret. Their leaders no longer walked freely in their grand halls. They were hiding. And yet, the attacks did not stop. Entire battalions of elite enforcers vanished overnight. High-ranking officials were found dead in their beds, their security systems untouched. Military outposts were left burning, without a single distress signal ever being sent. The Council tried to fight back. They deployed their most advanced fleets to hunt down the attackers. They locked down their worlds, patrolled their skies, and shut down all travel routes. But it didn't matter, because humanity was not fighting a war. They were delivering judgment. The Council's greatest stronghold, the fortress planet HFY 7, was the first to fall. A world guarded by planetary shields, orbital cannons, and an armada of warships. It was considered impenetrable. And yet, one night, the lights of HFY 7 simply went out. Every ship, every outpost, every city, silent. When the Council finally sent forces to investigate, they found nothing but empty streets and abandoned buildings. The entire population was gone. No bodies, no signs of struggle, no trace of where the millions of inhabitants had gone. Only a single message remained, displayed on every screen, every building, every warship still left floating in orbit. "We are here." The Council leaders sat in terrified silence as the transmission reached them. Humanity had not just struck back. They had become the nightmare that haunted the galaxy. The Galactic Council was in chaos. Their fleets were crumbling. Their leaders were dying. Their so-called fortress worlds were falling without a fight. No warnings. No survivors. This wasn't a war. This was a reckoning. The Council's High Chancellor sat in his private chamber, staring at the reports. HFY 7, gone. General Ruktor, assassinated in his own command center. 12 more colonies had gone completely silent overnight. None of it made sense. There were no invasions, no battles, no visible fleets. It was as if the enemy was striking from the shadows, appearing only long enough to destroy, then vanishing before anyone could react. And yet, deep down, he knew the truth. It was the humans. They were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to be broken. But instead, they had become something else. Something relentless. Something unstoppable. The Council issued emergency protocols, demanding the full force of its remaining fleets to defend their core worlds. Every planetary shield was activated, every warship called back. But it was too late, because humanity was already there. One by one, Council warships turned against their own fleets, their systems hacked from the inside. Defense stations were disabled before a single shot could be fired. And then, without warning, the first human fleet revealed itself. They had been waiting, hiding in the darkness of space, watching as the Council trapped itself in its own fear. And now, it was time to strike. The skies over the Council's capital burned as the first human warships entered orbit. Their sleek, black hulls reflected the flames below, their weapons glowing with the fire of retribution. The High Chancellor watched from his palace window, his hands trembling. For the first time in history, the rulers of the galaxy were the ones being hunted. The attack was swift. The Galactic Council's homeworld trembled as Earth's fleet descended from the darkness. The sky, once filled with the Council's mighty warships, now burned with wreckage. Defense stations crumbled, planetary shields shattered like glass, and the once great fleets of the Council turned to dust. But it wasn't just brute force. It was precision. Every strike was calculated, every target chosen with purpose. The humans were not here to conquer. They were here to erase those responsible. In the Grand Capital, panic spread like wildfire. Council members ran through the marble corridors of their palaces, desperate to escape. Their guards, their defenses, their wealth, none of it could save them now. And then the broadcasts began. Across the galaxy, every screen flickered, hijacked by a single transmission. A human figure stood in the darkness, their face hidden behind a helmet. Their voice was calm, yet carried the weight of a storm. The Galactic Council thought they could slaughter humanity without consequence. A silence fell over the watching galaxy. They believed they were untouchable, that they were above justice. The camera feed changed. It showed the Council's executions, the brutal slaughter of 10,000 innocent humans. The screams echoed once more. The galaxy watched, just as they had before. But this time, they felt something else. Dread. The human voice returned. But we are still here. The screen flickered again. This time, it showed the Council's cities burning, their warships crumbling, their leaders hunted like prey. And now, justice comes for you. The feed cut out. And in that moment, the entire universe understood. Humanity had not come for war. They had come for vengeance. The Galactic Council was falling. The mighty rulers of the galaxy, those who had once commanded fear and obedience, were now nothing more than prey, running, hiding, begging for mercy. But mercy was something humanity no longer had to give. The High Chancellor, once the most powerful being in the universe, cowered in his underground bunker, surrounded by his last surviving guards. His golden robes, once a symbol of power, were now stained with sweat and fear. His advisors were gone, some dead, some having fled like cowards. The great fleets that once patrolled the stars lay in ruins. The fortress worlds, once thought to be unbreakable, were now silent graveyards. And then, the lights in the bunker flickered. The Chancellor froze. The guards raised their weapons, their hands shaking. Then the screens in the room turned on, one by one. A familiar figure appeared, a human, clad in black armor, their helmet concealing their face. The same figure that had spoken in the last broadcast. "You thought silence would save you," the voice said, calm and unshaken. "But we were listening." The bunker's systems shut down. The doors unlocked on their own. And then the humans came. Silent, efficient, unstoppable. The Chancellor's guards opened fire, but their weapons had already been hacked. The plasma rifles refused to fire. The Chancellor tried to run, but there was nowhere left to go. The last thing he saw was a pair of human boots stepping into the room. And the last thing he heard, "This is for the 50,000. A single gunshot echoed. And just like that, the era of the Galactic Council was over. The galaxy was silent. For the first time in centuries, there were no rulers, no overlords, no council to enforce its will. The Galactic Council had fallen, not in battle, not through treaties or negotiations, but through the cold, relentless justice of humanity. The High Chancellor was dead. His body was found in the ruins of his bunker, a single bullet through his skull. His advisors, his generals, his enforcers, all gone. Some were executed, some fled to the farthest reaches of space, but none would ever reclaim their former power. And the galaxy watched in stunned silence. They had expected Earth to plead for peace. They had thought humanity would beg for mercy. Instead, humanity had delivered its own version of justice. But then, something unexpected happened. The humans didn't take control. They didn't claim the Council's throne. They didn't demand tribute, nor did they seize territory. Instead, they sent a single message across the stars. Let this be a lesson, a warning, a promise. Humanity had shown the galaxy what happened to those who believed themselves untouchable. They had shattered the illusion of power that the Council once held. And now, they vanished. Their fleets disappeared into the darkness of space. Their soldiers left no trace. The humans, who had burned the Council to the ground, returned to the shadows. The galaxy remained in stunned silence for years to come. New powers would rise, new governments would form, but no one dared to repeat the mistakes of the past. Because somewhere out there, Earth still watched. And the universe would never forget what happened when humanity decided to strike back.